Every year we go in talking about QBs, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, but we do not spend enough time looking at offensive line groups. If we take the time to look at these groups, it will help determine the real possibility and outcomes that we can expect from all of our positional players that we actually draft in fantasy football.
Alrighty, we are back in 2026 with our offensive line rankings. A lot of fun doing this last year. I really don't want to go too much into all the crazy stuff like I did last year, but just to break down what I was looking at this season so you guys have an idea of where I am getting these rankings from. We are looking at pass block win rate, QB pressure percentage, run block win rate, yards before contact, overall rank for those offensive lines, looking at the entire season as a whole, and then looking at the last handful of weeks because obviously there are trends, and then there's the overall picture of the season. And I want to make sure that I'm not just looking at, okay, well, the first 10 weeks they played really great, and then the last 7 weeks or 8 weeks they played like trash, or vice versa. They played like trash for the first 10 to 11 weeks with a new QB or a new OC or a new coach, and the last third of the season, the last 6-7 games, they came on, they were a top 10 unit, and then I'm thinking, oh, they're not going to be that great next year when they were already building towards being elite. I'm also looking at the additions of offensive line, OCs, head coaches, quarterbacks, and also obviously the departure of all those players and coaches as well. Because realistically, I have to get the overall picture. I have to get all the stats. I have to get all of the ads and subs that we're getting for these teams. You got to combine all the stuff together, and then from there I got to put my little projections on there, because realistically, if I'm not projecting, then I may not be getting enough of a look forward. So hopping right into it for this episode, we're going to be doing 10 through 6. So starting off at number 10, I do have the Atlanta Falcons. So last year for the Falcons, I believe for like my overall rankings, they were between like 18 and 20, like for the overall season. I do like this year because the head coach, obviously with Kevin Stefanski coming over, is going to be an improvement for this offense, for this team as a whole, and for this offensive line. 4 of the 5 starters from last season are top talents. Their guard center guard combo is arguably top 5 in the NFL. Realistically, they were that last season, but they just didn't play that way. It just seemed like they were dysfunctional. I think a big chunk of that was obviously the fact that you have Michael Penix Jr. as the QB. I don't think that helped. I don't think the Raheem Morris helped being a defensive coach trying to run this team. I think Kevin Stefanski coming over is going to get either the best version of Michael Penix or the best version of Tua, which will help this offensive line play better. The play calling will be better, and just hopefully the overall unit can be more cohesive and not just rely on like, hey, I'm really good, hey, I'm really good. But when we all work together, we're not playing up to the standards that we could be based on our individual talent levels. My biggest concern for the Falcons offensive line in 2026 is the addition of Jawaan Taylor. The name sounds familiar. He came over from the Chiefs. He's the guy who got all the penalties. He's the guy who was always jumping off sides. He was always holding. He was always lined up in the backfield. Like, the guy was booty cheeks. I guess I shouldn't say jumping off sides. He was false starting. Like, he's not that great. He's really, really bad, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people in the previous seasons had him ranked super, super high. Like, he was super, super great as a tackle. I don't think he is. Could he be good? Maybe. I don't know. But I just know it's my only real concern because, like I said, 4 of the guys are great. Like I said, the middle 3 are literally elite. So it really comes down to if Kevin Stefanski can get the best out of the players, like I already said, which I think that he can, I think you have an easy top 10 offensive line. So that should set it up where the quarterback play, the running back play, and the receiver play should be highly elevated for the NFL season and for fantasy football purposes. At number 9, I do have the LA Chargers. Biggest issue last season was Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt were both injured. Like they both were not able to play the whole season. It was a travesty. We were watching Justin Herbert get beat up, having to run out of the pocket. It was bad. It was like a bloodbath. They're both gonna be back this season. They're both gonna be healthy. They are gonna dominate as top 15 tackles. Now, obviously, there's 64 because it's 32 teams. They each have 2 tackles. 64 guys who are starting tackles in the NFL. They are both going to be top 15, meaning that they are in the top 25%. And that's easy. Easily in the top 25% of their position. It is going to open up crazy, crazy opportunities, both in the passing game and in the running game. Harbaugh has continued to get them to draft, the Chargers that being, fantastically. They continue to add rookie talent. They will be off to a hot start with the rookies they added for the offensive line going into this season. Tyler Biadasz comes over. He is going to immediately improve the O-line from what they were in 2025 to 2026. He is a veteran. He is a top 10 guy at his position. The only area of opportunity in this offensive line is Cole Strange at the right guard position. Like, he's not that great. He's more of like a replacement level player. So he's going to probably be around like league average, like 32 to 35 at his position. So I don't think he's going to help anything out, but the other four guys are going to play elite. They're also in a position where Mike McDaniels is now the offensive coordinator. I think you're going to see him help elevate this offense and this offensive line, put them in easier positions, easier pass blocking situations, easier run blocking situations. He's going to set them up for more and more success, on top of the fact that they're already an elite unit as far as talent goes, minus the one player. I do think that they could finish the season as a top 3 to top 5 offensive line. It would not shock me. It would not surprise me. The only other concern, I know I said it was just Cole Strange, but the only other concern realistically is health. There were a decent amount of injuries last season to the starting 5. So if they can overcome that, be healthy throughout the season or the majority of the season, and dive into what Mike McDaniels is going to set them up for, and dive into how good of a unit they can be and play cohesively, again, easily could finish as a top 3 to top 5 offensive line in 2026. At number 8, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Trent Williams is obviously still there. The dude's older, but the guy is probably the best tackle, if not the second or third best tackle in the NFL. They have a great starting unit. 4 of their 5 starters from last season are returning. Brock Purdy should be back hopefully the entire season. It is going to be a bounce back year for this unit. The 49ers finished as a top 10 unit last season, despite the fact that they didn't have Brock Purdy playing the majority of the season. I really don't care if you vote Mac Jones, but like, their best quarterback was not playing. Their offense was not humming the entire season. There was injuries throughout the receiving core. I do think you're going to see them be set up for a better season this year. This 49ers unit, again, 4 or 5 are returning. They only allowed 10 sacks that were attributed to them last season in 2025. They were top 10 overall in block win rate. All of that was done without Brock Purdy for the majority of the year. So they are going to be set up for dramatically more success when they have Brock Purdy back. They have Mike Evans back, hopefully a healthy George Kittle back. They're going to be set up to pop off and again be a top 10 unit. I do have them ahead of the Falcons, mainly because I have more faith in like the actual offensive unit as a whole and what they can do with Kyle Shanahan as their head coach. And I know what their team has done before, what this offensive line has done before. And I have them ahead of the Chargers because of the Chargers injury concerns. So the 49ers are going to fit right in there at number 8. At number 7, I have the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are in a similar situation to the Falcons. As far as individual talent-wise, they are fantastic. Their worst ranked by my rankings, looking at like pass block win rate, run block win rate, all things I talked about before, their worst ranked position, I believe, is a center. I think he's 16 or 17 on my list. Like, he is the worst ranked player. The rest of them are top 10 to top 5 at their individual position. They have a pretty elite unit. They didn't have overwhelming success together. Daniel Jones helped out this offensive line with the fact that he could run and get out of the pocket. Jonathan Taylor helped out because he's an elite running back. I do think that the cohesiveness of this unit will improve dramatically. A lot of people had them as like a top 10, the top 15 unit last year when it finished in 2025. I am predicting them as comfortably at number 7 because I think that they're going to be able to elevate and step up. And because the individual pieces, if they can come together and play a little bit better together, realistically, you could finish the top 5 unit, which again is why they're around 7. They didn't really have a lot of injuries like the Chargers did, so I had them above the Chargers. And then as far as the 49ers, those two were very, very close in my rankings. I went back and forth and back and forth. The Chargers edged them out by what? Oh my good God. 0.55 points overall as a unit. So they slightly edged them out. So they were very, very close. So I really can't say like, oh, they're dramatically better than the 49ers. They were dang close. They both are going to be units that last year kind of surprised as far as how well they played. And I think they're going to step up this season, especially if we can see the starting QB stay healthy for the entire season. At number 6, I have the Chicago Bears. The Bears went from 2024 being a bottom 5 offensive line to 2025 being a top 5 offensive line by the end of the season. They went from 68 sacks in 2024, which part of that was Caleb Williams, to 24 in 2025. They had a pass block win rate of 73%, which puts them as like a top 10 unit in the NFL. They were legitimately a top 5 to top 2, top 3, maybe even number 1 offensive line pretty much in every metric that I looked at for 2025. They were dominant. They literally were stacked, yacked, and they were beating people down on that offensive line. The biggest concern that I have this season, and this is why people are gonna be like, what? You don't have them as number 1? You don't have them as number 2 or 3? No, I have them at 6. Very, very comfortably at 6. I know that people are expecting them to be a top 3 unit, but Drew Dalman retiring is a big deal. It messes up the cohesion of this offensive line. Garrett Bradbury is replacing him. You go from a top 10 center in the NFL to a bottom 10 center in the NFL. That is a big deal regardless of what anyone else will tell you out there. That made it where I had to drop them down a couple of rankings. I also had to realize that typically when units are at an elite level in their first year and there's not really big injuries, there's going to be some regression. It's the same thing that happened with the Lions, same thing that happened with the Bucs, same thing that happened with the Eagles. There's going to be some level of regression, either injuries or play or just overall cohesion. It is going to have to dial back a little bit. So the center not being there, again, going from a top 10 to a bottom 10, it's a big deal. That messes with cohesion. That messes up with the overall blockability. And also I think center is probably the most important offensive line position behind the tackles. So I do think this unit's going to scale back a little bit in 2026. They are still a top 10 unit, almost top 5. I don't know how close I had them, like points wise. They are just slightly behind the next team I have at number 5. Unfortunately for this video, it is only 10 through 6. So if you are interested in watching 5 through 1, that video will be around here somewhere on the screen once it is posted. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different. It's like NFL content. It's not really like fantasy football. Like it does impact fantasy football, but it's more football. Hopefully it helps you get a little bit closer to winning your fantasy football championship in 2025, or maybe it was just entertaining, or both, maybe a little bit of both. Anyways, hope you all have a blessed day. Talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.